Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Justice League issue 29, and this is an issue dedicated solely to Jarro. And oddly enough, not only do we get a great story with Jarro, although I guess it takes place, it's a little bit of misdirection in the story, but not only do we get some good entertaining moments with Jarro and the Justice League and even the Legion of Doom, but we also get more information on two more of the 7 deadly forces of creation that were released when the Source Wall broke down. Now it's I gotta say, the story itself dealing with Jarro, it's entertaining enough. Jarro basically the whole story with Jarro, this whole issue felt a little bit jarring, if you get where I was going with that. It's a jarring issue because it's a jarring issue because on the one hand it focuses on Jarro, and there's a little bit of a comedic issue because Jarro loves Batman, and Jarro initially, of course, small Jarro, he's called, instead of being called Starro, he's called Jarro because he was small enough that when they first found him they put him in a jar. Jarro himself is a piece of the larger Starro that was destroyed and killed by an Omega Titan back in the No Justice series by Scott Snyder. If you recall, in that series, in No Justice, Brainiac at that time feared the Omega Titans, and it was feared. No one knew exactly what the Omega Titans were, but it was subsequently discovered that the Omega Titans were ultimately beings that were meant to protect and keep the integrity of the Source Wall intact. Ultimately, of course, the Omega Titans were destroyed in the pages of Justice League, and ultimately the Source Wall broke down. But in the events of No Justice, Starro himself was killed by an Omega Titan, and a small piece of Starro survived, and that was, of course, Jarro, and he became a member of the Justice League, and he's a big fan of Batman. Now, Jarro's been having visions, and his visions tell him that there's no way to defeat Doom. Now, this is not uncommon. Even the World Forger believes that there's no way to defeat Doom, and frankly, even Batman thinks that the odds are against them, but they're going on their inspiration of Superman. They really want to defeat Doom, and come hell or high water, they're going to find a way to do it. But Jarro is really desperate. And this is kind of a touching story with Jarro, because Jarro's plan was to basically create, use the star, replicate himself, and basically control the minds and control the brains of the members of the Justice League and transport them to his world, to O-World, I think they call it, and basically to protect them from the coming doom. So his heart was in the right place, but Batman put a stop to that. But that part of the story you can read. I want to focus more on the 7 deadly forces now. We now know what they are, with the exception of the 7th one. We now know that there's 2 new deadly forces, 7 deadly forces. There's 2 more. There's the Void Wind and the Black Apple. So get this. So now we have the ultraviolet spectrum. That's one. Second is the Still Force, which is the cosmic current towards stasis and death. The ultraviolet spectrum is the unseen light of all hidden emotion. We have the Tear of Extinction, or sometimes called the Tear of Extinction, I think, depending on how it's used in the context. And the Tear of Extinction is a dark mirror of life's connections, a drive toward isolation and solipsism. And then there's the Void Wind. Now this is the first we're hearing of the Void Wind. An odd name. The guys on the Slapjack, they had some fun with it. The Void Wind, it sounds like a fart. It sounds like flatulence, like mystical flatulence, doesn't it? But the Void Wind is apparently, it's the Tear of Extinction's twin. It's an energy used to end gods and to snuff out magic, is all we're getting about it. So that's interesting. So I suspect we're going to hear more of the Void Wind. Might hear it, might smell it. You can see the fart jokes coming, right? But we're probably going to see more of the Void Wind, not only in the pages of Justice League, but probably in the pages of Justice League Dark, because sooner or later, that they're going to have to address the Void Wind. Because will the DC creatures of magic, how will they fare against the power of a Void Wind? And who's going to wield the power of the Void Wind? Is the Void Wind a power that's wielded by the Upside Down Man in the pages of Justice League? We haven't been told that yet, but it's going to be interesting to see. Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV both wrote this issue, so James Tynion IV is likely going to use reference to the Void Wind in the pages of Justice League Dark, if I was to venture a guess. The 5th force it's called the Black Apple. Odd name for a force, but it's the Black Apple. And the Black Apple is apparently an energy that is unlocked by discovery of the universe's most forbidden secrets. That's extremely vague as to virtually mean nothing. I mean, How do you like them black apples, huh? What's that telling you? The Justice League have discovered all kinds of secrets in the universe, and they never discovered no black apple. So I'm not sure what the hell the black apple is. So really, that's not a lot of information at all. Then we got something called the sixth note is another one. The sixth note is an energy force beyond imagination itself, unleashed when the impossible is glimpsed. Now, I'm a little confused. I thought that the sixth note, perhaps that's related to the sixth dimension, because I thought that the sixth dimension was something that was beyond imagination itself. I thought imagination existed in the sixth dimension, and that's where Mixopidlic came from, and Batmite. I thought that, so I would have thought maybe the sixth note is related to maybe Batmite or the sixth dimension. It probably is. But again, still a little bit vague. And then of course we know that there's a seventh, the seventh and final deadly force of creation is going to be released when Perpetua herself is finally awakened into her full glory. And that's something that currently, that's what the Legion of Doom, led by Lex Luthor, the apex predator, apex Lex Luthor, is trying to do. And when that happens, that seventh deadly force, when it's released, and that it's a mystery as to what exactly that power is. But Perpetua has control, apparently, or power over all the seven deadly forces. So that's all of them. Ultraviolet spectrum, still force, tear of extinction, the void wind, the black apple, the sixth note, and the mysterious seventh force that Perpetua herself will wield when she is finally released. So there you have it. Now, not a lot of information still. There's still a lot of vagueness. One of my constructive criticisms, I think, of the seven deadly forces is just how sort of vacuous they are. There's not a lot of detail. They're not particularly well defined. What's the difference between the black apple and the void wind? I mean, they all seem to be forms of energy. Why does the void wind snuff out End of God and snuff out magic, but the black apple is a massive energy? What is the black apple? What can the black apple destroy? Which force is more powerful? Is there a ranking of these various seven forces? There are so many questions that we don't have answers to, and it's a little frustrating because we're 29 issues in. I'd really like more substance here. And of course, in particular, I got criticism against the ultraviolet spectrum because I think we need more detail on that, although I think we've got most information on the ultraviolet spectrum force. In terms of the hidden emotions of humanity, I can get how that's maybe powerful. The hidden emotions and the darker emotions of life forms can be utilized into a power ring. That's what Sinestro Core, that's what Sinestro basically has power over. The still force is still not particularly well defined. It's a cosmic current towards stasis and death. Recently in the pages of Flash Rebirth, we had the Turtle basically in Flash Year 1 utilize the still force to basically stop the cosmic current and to create a stasis and in between two timelines, between the present and the future version of the Turtle. And so between two different timelines, the still force, I'm assuming, must be somehow connected to the speed force, because we know from the multiversity map that the speed force permeates throughout the multiverse. And so if the still force is the counterpoint to the speed force, then presumably, does the still force exist in our multiverse, or does it actually exist in the dark multiverse on the flip side of the map of the multiverse? I'm still a little bit unclear on some of this stuff. And how does all this filter into the sixth dimension? Because I find it interesting that the sixth note, I'm sure, must have some connection to the sixth dimension there, but I'm not really sure. As for the black apple and the void wind, I mean, I think those are very curious names. I don't know how they come up with those names, but it's interesting. But these are not particularly, I don't think these are particularly well thought out names, to be honest with you. I was hoping for something a little bit more, cool. They sound kind of like the void wind again. It sounds like a fart. Are you kidding me? Come on. And the black apple, well, I guess the black apple, I guess there are worse. I mean, Lex Luthor, after all, had the doorknob that his father gave him, the doorknob that gave him access to all these forces. It's rather curious that we had to wait 29 issues to get what they are. And again, to find out in this issue starring Jarro, just mentioned out of the blue what this void wind, black apple, and sixth note, it just seemed like these should be revelations that should have been introduced in an epic storyline or during an epic battle, not during a a Jarro issue. That was, I mean, if you blinked, you almost would have missed reference to these significant forces here, which clearly play a significant role in the overarching storyline here that Snyder and Tynion have been working on. But in any event, I should give a shout out to Redondo and Hi-Fi on the colors and the art. Great stuff. And guys, tell me what you think of Justice League issue 29. Hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.